As we know, the tourism industry has been one of the hardest hit over the last 2 years or so. The United Nations World Tourism Organization estimates the total loss of revenue last year alone was around, look at that number. Can you wrap your head around that number? $1.6 trillion. But there's a but here. Things are starting to look up. So here to give us an update on the state of tourism is our travel expert, Loren Christie. Nice to see you in studio, of course. Okay, I have to ask you about Sunwing, obviously, because we've been following it so closely in the news. People are still stuck. Yeah. What advice do you have for people right now?
Well, I think that you heard from your guest in the last half hour, you know, no one really knows quite yet how much they're going to be entitled to or not. So literally my number one piece of advice is keep your receipts right now. It's not going to help you. I know it's painful, but in the future, once they sort this all out, no one's quite sure what you're going to be entitled to or not. So keep those receipts. And in the future, this is a great example of trying to buy trip cancellation or interruption insurance. It can help you. You know, some people, including myself, sometimes forego it. It's a great example why to get it, particularly those people who have connecting flights and things would have had a much easier time getting their money back.
Listen, I took your advice. I went to the Dominican with my family recently, and it was the first time I've ever bought insurance. Yeah. And I'm glad I did, because it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be for the 5 of us too, which also was like a nice surprise. Okay, so for those people traveling, I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people traveling. In fact, is the prediction 2022 is going to be one of the busiest travel years? That is
depending on who you listen to. Okay. Expedia came out and they're saying, their CEO is saying it's going to be the busiest travel year. I think it depends on where you are. Certainly places in North America, Europe, for example, it will be that busy if you look at booking data and surveys of people traveling. I think the big thing is that most of the restrictions have been dropped. I think if you're a vaccinated person, the world is a little bit your oyster, so that's good news. But there is always still the COVID caveat. I think we're in a position now where we think, oh, it's kind of over. It's not. Right. And there are many places in the world, look at Shanghai, that are still under lockdown. So absolutely get back out there and travel. Absolutely, I think resorts in particular will be busy this year. But I think you need to be flexible. And here in Canada, as an example, just to bring it a little bit more domestically, we are expecting a busy summer, but not super busy. PEI, as an example, is expecting 1.23 million travelers this year, which sounds amazing.
How do they know that? I mean, you know what I mean? It's
predictions on bookings and patterns and whatever. That's 86% up from last year, but it's 400,000 less than pre-COVID. So it's going to be busy, but not crazy.
Okay, you know, one of the industries that we covered so extensively at the beginning of all of this was the cruise industry. And I have to wonder, because every once in a while a story will pop up and I'm like, are people cruising right now? But they are, right?
People are. This is an industry that had to do health and safety right, or else it would be sunk, and that is pun intended. Thank you very much.
Of course.
If you want to bring up the board, we do have a board with some stats which are sort of mind-blowing to me. You know, there have been, since July of 2020, 7.5 million people have still cruised. Cruisers are addicted to cruising.
They just love their cruiser people and their non-cruiser people.
Exactly. But even that being said, 86 countries, including Canada, are now open to cruise ships. We had Vancouver, the first ship, a couple of weeks ago, and Halifax coming up. CLAIA, which is Cruise Lines International, says that 100% of their fleet will be operational, hopefully, fingers crossed, by this July. But the actual levels, they say not back to normal until the end of 2023. But it's still amazing. People want to cruise.
It is amazing. And the money that brings into these ports, I know when I was living in Halifax, that was a huge portion of, you know, the tourism industry. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now if we're looking ahead, are there deals to be had right now?
You know what? Not a lot. I think, unfortunately, there is a lot of demand, as we talked about. There's not as much supply as there was. People are trying to catch up, but they're a little short on their labor and trying to get back into business. So I think you're going to see internationally not so many deals, resorts, outdoor locations not so many, few urban centers maybe, but particularly I do think if you want to stay in Canada, we are slowly inviting international travelers back. We're trying to get them back after the restrictions open, but we still need that domestic traveler. So you're going to find some deals. I've seen deals out in BC to Nova Scotia. Ontario is still offering its tax credit. And I think with the new introduction of routes by discount airlines that we've seen, Lynx, Flair, Swoop, all these new newish discount airlines, but with expanded routes. If you look at flights across the country right now, if you're willing to fly into some secondary airports in some cases, you could get deals for under $100 to go back and forth across the country. So I would look into those. If you're looking for a deal summer, stay domestic and check out some of those airlines.
And listen, if we've learned nothing in the last 2 years, is the fact that, I mean, our country has just the most amazing, incredible little pieces and spots to travel to, and you've brought us a lot of that too.
100%. It was the one little silver lining of COVID as we discovered Canada again.
Yeah, and got to showcase that. All right, Loren, always good to see you. Thanks so much for this great information. We'll see you soon in studio, of course.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.